All right, we will continue our conversation now about airline staffing. As we mentioned earlier, there's a congressional committee that rejected an effort to raise the retirement age for airline pilots from 65 to 67. And instead, they're boosting FAA staffing. Once again, joining me tonight is David Evans, an FAA certified flight instructor based out of Mesa, Arizona. Glad to have you back, David. I think
I'm glad to be back.
before we lost you, we were talking about this pilot shortage behind the effort to raise that age. So if you could briefly describe what's behind the shortage and why is there an issue with recruiting more pilots?
Well, in 2009, there was an air crash, the Colgan crash. And at that time, Congress and the FAA increased the training requirements and experience requirements for pilots before they get on a commercial jetliner on the flight deck. And since that time, slowly the shortage has been increasing as the years go by. And so this is not something new. This has been going on for 20, 24 years now. Is that right? 14 years, I guess. And so this is to be expected given the passage of that law back then.
So what do you think about that move today, rejecting the effort? Do you think the age should be raised?
It's interesting. I will tell you, there are many parties here that are influencing this legislation or that did. Obviously, the FAA had their concerns about raising the age. The Airline Pilots Association had concerns, and they probably wanted to limit the age to at 65 to keep pay up for pilots. But really disadvantage the regional airlines is where most pilots get started. And I've flown with, and I just flew the other day with a gentleman that was in his late 60s, and he was an outstanding pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are exceptions to the rule, and I think those need to be taken a look at.
So outside of pay for pilots and having more of them on staff, what are the other concerns that people have raised about raising that age?
Well, I think there's just a general feeling by the powers that be that once you're post 65, you're no longer mentally capable of flying an aircraft. And yeah, I mean, I guess in some cases that might be the case, but in many cases, these very experienced pilots are outstanding pilots and still have good judgment and motor skills to flying very advanced aircraft. And so, I would think that this would be on a case-by-case scenario rather than just a carte blanche rule that limits your supply of pilots dramatically.
Well, let's wrap up with this. There have been a lot of pretty concerning headlines in the aviation industry, not only the Boeing 737 MAX 9 issues. We've heard about air traffic controllers being overworked and understaffed, close calls on runways, and, some people have concerns about this potential retirement age change. What would you say to travelers who are a little nervous and concerned about flying?
Well, I think, flying is not something that most people do every day. So there's, for the general population of people that are getting on a plane, there's some nervousness there. There are always going to be incidents that pop up where there's close calls, where there's an accident here and there. But I always like to remind people, especially when I'm on the media like this, that our system of commercial transportation regarding aircraft is one that is very, very, very safe. And I think that there could be a lot of solace taken by the flying public that there is a good safety record in general, and that more likely than not, they're safe getting from one destination to the other.
Yeah.
That would be what I would say, and the statistics and facts bear that out.
All right, David Evans, FAA certified flight instructor out of Mesa, Arizona. Thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome, Shana. Thank you.